and welcome to another episode of Late TV Fights. And we've got a great match lined up for you today. This is the second tournament match that we've recorded. The first one is a really great match, as you would have seen. But yeah, so I'm not alone on the judging though. We've got Ryan Permison back again. Ryan, how's it going?
Yeah, it's going well, good sir. Thank you so much for having me. This ought to be a good match with this new chapter, this new era of this new division we got going on. The first match was already a great debut, a great barn burner, if you will. Maybe this one will turn out to be a slobber knocker. Only time will tell.
And also with me, you've probably seen me around the league a few times in various places, but as the other judge, Richard Schwartz. Richard, how's it going?
It's going good. I'm looking forward to seeing these two fight. I've seen Joe debate before, and I know Dustin knows his movie trivia. Let's see how he is with debating. It's gonna be a good match, I think.
And with that, how the match works, like everyone gets 4 prepared questions, and with the opening of 90 seconds, the main debate round, you got a 5-minute free form, and then the closing is 1 minute. And if the competitors choose to do so on any particular question, they can extend the opening or closing for 1 minute. They cannot use it in the main round. But let's meet our competitors. Introducing first, we've got Dustin Mason. Dustin, how's it going?
Hey, what's up, Malcolm? Good to be here. All right, I'm just gonna give like a laydown to the audience. I wasn't aware that this was like a debate, and when I signed up for this, but I am really down for this. I looked over all of our questions tonight. I can't wait to discuss this shit. Joe, good luck to you, man. You know your stuff, so I'm not gonna underestimate you, especially since this is my first television's late night fight. And yeah, let's do this, bro. That's there.
And introducing second is Joe. I don't know what your nickname is, Harrison. Joe, how's it going?
It's going well. I don't really have a nickname. It kind of bounces around, but yeah, I'm excited for this match. I've heard great things about Dustin. We both have really solid choices, so I think it's just going to come down to blow for blow. This is going to be a pound for pound match, and I'm excited to see what happens.
But without any further ado, let's get into the first question. And this is definitely going to be an interesting one because with the answers that I've got been given, I know that already. But the first question is: we all know that like people are very split on whether they like the ending to How I Met Your Mother or whether they don't. But so I've asked our competitors to pitch a brand new ending to How I Met Your Mother. And I'm going to get Dustin to go first on this one. You've got 1.5 minutes on your opening, and time begins when you start talking.
All right. How I Met Your Mother has a very infamous ending, and turns out that Ted was married to this woman who died of an illness, and he's been talking to his kids the whole time, and then the kids at the end are like, go get Robin, Dad. And then I was thinking whether or not, like, I don't think the season should have been beyond, like 5 seasons, and it went on way too long. And personally, I feel like Ted's character just became more and more like unlikable and just kind of delusional. And I feel like it would have been way more interesting to learn that he went like Alzheimer's, like he went like dementia ridden at the finale. And yeah, he's just been hallucinating this thing the whole time. He didn't really have kids. He didn't as soon as like his wife died, he just went bananas, and he's been regretting it ever since because he didn't really get with Robin. That's my ending. I know it's dark, but whatever.
And finishing with time left on the clock, see how that strategy pays off. And Joe, you've got 1.5 minutes on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
So the issue with the ending of How I Met Your Mother is it should have ended at the bus stop when they realized that it's her yellow umbrella and it should have just been in Kids, that is how I met your mother. The entire second half of Unending is trying to tie up loose ends that really didn't need to be tied up, because there was such a good moment in just them finally realizing that they had really been searching for each other this entire time. And so that's why it should just end right there, because I think that's what the point of the story was supposed to be, is that it's just supposed to be telling the kids how I met your mother. Yes, explaining all the obstacles that got there was good, but explaining what happens after I met your mother doesn't serve justice to the show, because the show is titled How I Met Your Mother. So with ending at the moment where he says, "And kids, that is how I met your mother," that is how it should have been, because tying up all these loose ends, we know that Robin and Barney are probably not going to end up together at the end. We know that Lily and Marshall have a great relationship. So by just being able to tie up in a perfect package what the premise of the show was, which is just Ted finding the mother of his children, would have been such a great send-off to a show that was amazing throughout its entire run up until the last hour of it, with the second half of The Last Forever. That is why it should have just ended with them at the bus stop, him saying, the meeting, realizing that they were supposed to be for each other, and him saying, "That is how I met your mother."
Time. That we've got some really great new endings here, and we're about to go into the 5-minute freeform debate, and time begins when someone starts talking.
Okay, I agree with a lot of what you were saying, Joe, but I ultimately feel like by the time we got to that last episode, I don't feel like I cared personally as a viewer anymore. And to see it go in such a left field direction, I would have liked to see that. For it to build up an entire season for this one character that you're just going to kill off just to get pity, heartfelt.
However, in my ending, she would have not been killed off, because it would have ended when they met. So we wouldn't even have that left field ending. And your ending, while interesting, does not really serve within the whole the kind of the feel and the atmosphere of How I Met Your Mother. It's a very lighthearted comedy, and for it to go super dark in its series finale, I think would have been more of a disservice and an injustice to the show than what happened. If fans were already split on him ending up with Robin, imagine how split fans would be if he never even met the mother. He had just gone insane the entire time. Your ending isn't better. It's anything. Yes, it's an interesting ending. However, it would be more divisive and more split, and it wouldn't end up being better, because fans would more than likely hate it as opposed to loving it. My ending, actually, a lot of people say that's the definitive ending, is that they don't even count that other half of The Last Forever. So by making it the true definitive ending would already make it a better, as because the fans already accept that it is. So by just making it the definitive is what we should do, and that would be the better ending as opposed to yours.
Okay. No, I think you made a really good suggestion of how to stop the series at a certain point. Whereas mine is still acknowledging the rest of the series, but just throwing in an insane cliffhanger at the end. But I was still going to keep that relationship building. You believe the relationship, you get that development, while as in yours, they just meet. So you could argue that there's not a lot of development. It's just kind of rushed by that point where you just say, "All right, kids, that's how I met your mother," and then it just ends. But yeah, perhaps it's a little dark, but like I said, I personally think it should have ended 3 seasons prior, but we're not particularly arguing that, but that's where I'm trying to lead this debate towards, because that's my only... Please jump in.
However, yeah, as you were saying, I think, but the premise of the show and the title of the show is How I Met Your Mother. So by ending it with How I Met Your Mother, not only does it allow fans to kind of, think about themselves just like how they want the lecture lives to see, they can also imprint themselves on kind of their own stories with how they met their own loves of their life, their own mothers and fathers of their children. While yours takes a really feel-good show and just all of a sudden turns it into this dark comedy, which it never was. Yes, How I Met Your Mother does have some dark moments. It never really plays into being a dark comedy, and that's what your ending would make it. It would completely come more out of left field than the already original ending of what it is by saying that he never met your mother. And besides, however, you even also weakened yourself by saying it should have ended 3 seasons earlier. I think personally, through the entire show, while there are some hit and miss episodes in the later seasons, it overall has a great run in all up until the last part of the last forever. So that's why we can just, tie it up in a nice bow, say that's How I Met Your Mother, leave all of the fans feeling really good about it, and then instead of kind of, making them invest and then saying, nope, it was all a lie, he has dementia, I think that would be more mean and more insulting to viewers than the already original ending already is.
You raise a good point. I'm not gonna. Yeah, I knew coming into this round this wasn't gonna be very good for me, but still, like, you asked me what I thought about the thing, and I don't blame you guys, and you have a really good argument for it, and yeah, I feel like I think you kind of won this round just by saying it was never that sort of dark comedy show to begin with, and you got me on that. So I kind of forfeit this round, honestly. I want to move on to the next question, but I was debating whether or not to do this, but yeah, you win this round. That was a good argument.
I mean, I'm still good to go. I mean, unless you are sincerely forfeiting and the judges are okay with that, I would like.
Yeah, I would keep around, yeah, because I was never really that. I'm way more confident in the other questions. I'm just saying, but yeah, you have a good argument for How I Met Your Mother, man. You won. You won that.
It's my favorite TV show of all time.
Well, I can tell. Yeah, it's not my favorite, but yeah, you have the fucking passion for it. That's for sure. Good job, man. Bravo.
So, do you still want to do closings or just go to the judges?
You can go to the judges on this one. I would love to hear what they thought about my argument.
Yeah, I mean, did you still want to do closings?
Yeah, I still believe that the show should have ended on a dark note. Maybe not a crazy note, but it should have ended on a dark note. Maybe not as dark as I proposed, but sorry. I'm just sorry about it. About the whole thing, about this whole question. I'll do better.
And Joe, go to your closing. Your 1 minute starts when you start talking.
So, as I was saying, it's kind of reiterating how his was a very dark ending, and what would have been interesting never really is in the spirit of How I Met Your Mother. My ending would be kind of what fans wanted, and it's okay to give fans what they expect and what they want out of an ending. A lot of people say that even the creators were just like, oh, well, they were trying to subvert expectations. And I think that in this case, an ending that doesn't subvert expectations and gives the fans what they were really wanting and hoping for would have been the better way to end it. And I'll yield the rest of my closing.
This was definitely an interesting first question, that's for sure. Richard, who are you going to give your point to and why?
Kind of just want to do a twist and give it to Dustin, but obviously I got to give it to Joe. Dustin just gave it halfway up. I mean, I as a joke, it'd be funny just to give the point to Dustin, but I mean, when you give up halfway through, we don't even finish the 5 minutes or the closing. You kind of like Joe. Come on, sorry, Dustin, but Joe.
Dude, don't worry.
Yeah, I mean, my point was going to go to Joe and you as well, but Dustin had a really interesting argument, and I think if he'd stuck with it, and found a way to manage to counter Joe's bit more, then he probably could have done enough to convince me otherwise. But I mean, Joe managed to defute Dustin's ending very quickly by going, it wasn't a dark comedy and all that. Yeah. The next question is a very fun one. This is one that I've seen sort of talked about a lot of recent times, and I thought, well, this would be interesting to throw in. The question is, what has been the most underrated TV show of the past 20 years? Because we went to Dustin first on the first one. Joe, you can go first on this one. Minute 30 is on the clock. Time.
So I have gone with The Cleveland Show. Hey guys, it's me, Cleveland Brown. I'm here to tell you about my TV show. And the reason I go with the Cleveland Show is it is a spinoff of Family Guy that brings one of Family Guy's more interesting characters in Cleveland Brown and kind of puts him in his own area. And with the whole thing, a lot of people saying it's just a rehash of Family Guy, but it isn't, because it brings this whole new dynamic of Cleveland dealing with not only going back to his hometown, but, seeing how the town has changed and how he has changed with it, and kind of his own interactions with his new family, his new friends, and his old friends. And there's a bear as well, and the bear is awesome. And to me, it's just kind of very underrated because it didn't really get a chance to land with viewers, because unfortunately a lot of people only saw it as Family Guy Redux and not this kind of really take on an interesting character from Family Guy and kind of expanding on him, giving him more character depth, allowing him to have interactions with different characters as well, and having his own kind of story in his own life that isn't dependent on the antics of Peter, Joe, and Quagmire, and kind of, creating him into and creating a whole world about Cleveland Brown. And that's why I think the Cleveland Show has been very underrated and was canceled too soon. And unfortunately, a lot of people just didn't really give it the chance to shine. And it could have been a really huge piece of television if people had just gotten the chance to really let its comedy and its richness and its characters
and Dustin, 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right, my choice is American Dad. Good morning, USA. Okay, yeah. Another show created by Seth MacFarlane, and this came out like right around the time, right in the middle, mid-2000s. And people said that this was, when this first was coming out, they were like, oh, this just looks like another version of Family Guy. But this time, this show doesn't do cutaways. It focuses on a family in Langley, and it's a really diverse cast of family characters like Stan, he's a CIA agent, Roger the alien, who's had some of the best episodes in television history with Ricky Spanish, and Steve, the Boys to Men loving singer of the family, and he's hysterical, and he has his group of friends. Haley, Francine is one of the greatest wives in television history, not just animated, but television. And I feel like the Cleveland Show doesn't have nearly as many rich characters as American Dad. And Klaus, the goldfish, of course, is terrific. And its longevity is terrific. And it's still one of the most relevant animated shows of today. And it's been 16 seasons going strong. It's going on to a 17th. TBS has really done a really good job with it. And Seth MacFarlane, even though he hasn't been involved with the production as much over the years, his voice work is still outstanding. And I feel like it's a way better show and way more underrated, and has a way better cult following than the show.
Well, we've got the Seth MacFarlane Civil War. As I set the timer for 5 minutes. But yeah, this is going to be a fun debate. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Just remember, give it all and try not to give up, but just try to find ways to counter that.
On this one, Malcolm.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it wasn't a dig. It was just more, yeah. But yeah, 5 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when someone starts talking.
So I would say that yours really isn't underrated because it has always had this kind of big following. Yes, while it did have to move to TBS, it was able to really find a following and have a lot of people view it. And to me, underrated is when something really doesn't get a chance and doesn't really have that big of a following. And that's what the Cleveland Show is, because a lot of people only saw it as a Family Guy Redux as opposed to what it really is, which is kind of, exploring and expanding and on it. And while American Dad is interesting, and I will give it that, I don't think it's underrated because it has, as you said, 17 seasons and it's still going strong. If a show was underrated, it would have been canceled earlier, as mine was.
it actually was canceled, and TBS revived it at its peak, actually. The season where it got canceled is the season where it had the independent movie episode, which satirized independent films perfectly, and it was an episode that followed Steve primarily with Zooey Deschanel voice casting. I mean, that's just genius, that whole episode. And then Fox wanted to cancel it, but TBS picked it up, and that's why it's still going strong. That's why just because of that cult audience that kept it alive, and because of the fact it's underrated. And I think we have two different definitions of the word underrated, Joe.
However, like it wasn't canceled because it wasn't underrated. It was Fox just didn't see a kind of a real reason to go. I guess Fox was changing their lineup at the time that it was canceled and didn't see where to fit it in. It wasn't because they didn't like the show. It's just with what Fox was doing with its content at the time, they didn't really feel it. They were bringing back Last Man Standing. They were bringing back a bunch of different shows that they just didn't feel. It's not because of that. However, mine was canceled because people weren't giving it the chance it was. And kind of as you were saying with that, we have these characters as a family unit that's very interesting. The brother dynamic between Cleveland Jr. and Rollo is hilarious, and kind of and seeing how they interact with each other, and how Rollo is more of the big brother than Cleveland Jr. and that is great. And the fact that people just didn't really want to give it a chance because they only saw it as a Family Guy ripoff.
Okay. American Dad is way more of a show. And granted, it's been given more of a chance, but I'm pretty sure it's because Fox, thought it ran its course. That's why they canceled it. But you're talking about the dynamic between Rollo and Cleveland Jr. I'm sorry, but what about the dynamic between, every character in in American Dad? What about Steve and Roger, Steve and Klaus, Klaus and Roger, Steve and Stan, Stan and Francine, Jeff and Stan, Francine, and all these characters? It's just so great.
However, I think we need to bring this back in because right now we're arguing which show is better, and the show isn't which is better. Our argument is which is more underrated, and mine is more underrated because people really
why it was underrated, why I think it's underrated, and why it's been given a chance to stretch its guts a little bit. Cleveland show was on the air for barely 4 years, right? If I'm not mistaken, and everyone I've talked to. And I talk to a lot of losers that watch animated adult shows, and let me tell you, none of them were Cleveland show fans. I gave it a chance. I'll tell you, you keep preaching the fact that, no one gave Cleveland show a chance. I gave it a chance. I've watched plenty of the Cleveland show, and to me, it really is, and I'm sorry to tackle this, but it really is a Family Guy ripoff way more than any of the other Seth MacFarlane-affiliated shows, because Cleveland really is relegated to saying Peter-esque lines. The wife is very Lois-esque and Francine. It's like a combo of the two. The daughter is barely a character, unlike Haley. And I'm pretty sure it didn't have the longevity, not only because people didn't give it the chance, but because writers wanted the characters a chance to flourish. And they had plenty of voice actors like Jason Sudeikis to shine, but they never really made a totally memorable character with him, while in American Dad, you have so many people being revived in later seasons, like Richard Kind.
However, making memorable characters, it's because people always wanted these characters to come back in American Dad because people remembered it and people wanted it to come back. But that's not meaning it's underrated, because if it was underrated, people wouldn't be remembering it. People wouldn't be wanting it to come back.
But the people that find it underrated are niche enough to be considered niche. Like, they're small enough to be considered niche, excuse me. So they will listen to the fans. In American Dad, maybe it's because they've listened to the fans and the fans find their show underrated. It keeps going strong. And like I said, I think we just have two different definitions of underrated, personally. But I think American Dad, even though it's still on the air, it's still probably in its last few breaths, according to some people. But I still think it has potential to keep going even longer than Family Guy, arguably.
However, if a show is underrated, as we've seen with a lot of most underrated shows, they either are killed and revived, not by another network, but by some stream.
That definitely got a bit heated, most definitely. But we've got our closings to go. We got to show it first in the opening. Dustin, you can go first in the closing. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right. I definitely think that American Dad is more underrated than I almost said Family Guy, because Cleveland show really is like a Family Guy knockoff. And no one really like people. Some people, like very few people, like you get 10 people in a room, maybe 2 or 3 of them know the Cleveland Show. I bet you 7 or 8 people know American Dad, and it's not because it's a large audience. It's because people just have word of mouth for American Dad, and it has so many memorable episodes. I can't name you one memorable episode by title for the Cleveland Show, and I've watched plenty of the Cleveland Show. I can name you at least 10 titles right now for American Dad, but I'm not going to do that because I don't want to sound like Dominic, okay? And I already sound like Dominic going at like 45 miles per hour in this show. But it's terrific, this show. It has great animation. I'm just saying that why this show is great at this point. It has better characters. Roger's way more deep than any blade of grass on this in the setting of the Cleveland Show. Nothing is in the Cleveland Show is even like a pube hair on the. Sorry.
And Joe, 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
However, you just keep bringing up why your show is better, but that's not the question. The question is, what is the more underrated show? And you even hurt yourself when you said that if you bring 10 people in a room and ask them who have seen who sort of are seeing the Cleveland Show, only 2 of them are going to say I've seen it. However, 7 or 8 are going to say that they've seen American Dad. Therefore, it means it's already a bigger audience, and with a bigger audience, it means people have given it a chance to kind of grow and flourish. However, with my show, it's underrated because people never really gave it the chance to flourish. It was only seen as a Family Guy ripoff. Never really got the chance to grow into its own, but for the 3 seasons it was on the air, it was really rich and deep, and I'm going to yield the rest of my time.
That was a really great debate. It really did get heated. I'm going to go first on this one. I'm going to give my point to Joe because this is one that came down to the closings for me. It was pretty even and just the closing. And Joe's point about challenging Dustin's point about like more people have heard of American Dad kind of hit home because like the definition of underrated that I've quite often seen is not talked about enough. So yeah, but Ryan, where are you going to give your point to and why?
All right, real quick, I just want to say both competitors, you finally each one was trying to counterpoint the other. Like, I mean, Dustin, you had Joe in a corner for some point, like he was a little bunny, and you were like this big. You're like a big bear, man. You had these claws and fangs, trying to kill this bunny. But anyway, good points raised by both competitors. But the question was, what's the most underrated show? Just felt like Joe put up a few more of those points, brought up more reasons why his particular series is underrated to a certain extent. So with that being said, I'm going to give my point to Joe. But Dustin, thank you for bringing out the claws and fangs, big freaking teeth on you. Seriously, good work, man.
And I mean, with that, Joe does get the point. But this next question is a must hit for Dustin. To get the point because otherwise it's going to be a knockout on Joe's part. But the next question is, what is the best TV theme of all time? And Dustin, you go first on this. 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right, my favorite theme is That 70s Show. Not because I look like Ashton Kutcher, but because it's just a great theme song. I mean, what are they doing? They're hanging out down the street, the same old thing we did last week. I mean, they're already telling you what's going to happen. It's the same shit. And if that's the type of show you're into, which is really hilarious, character work, great performances, then definitely. And it just gets the high energy spirit of the show. It has that "Hello, Wisconsin" at the end. That's where the show takes place. It tells you everything you need to know in the theme song. The Office is just like, it's just pianos, and I love it. It's charming, but it's not really a definitive theme when it comes to an actual show. You need an actual song to tell you. That's the best theme. That 70s Show.
Right. Joe, 90 seconds is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Well, my answer was spoiled for everyone. I am going with The Office, and I think the reason The Office, as Dustin bringing it up, it's a charming thing. And while why I think it's the best is we get to go around not only The Office, but we get to go around Scranton. We kind of get to really feel for the environment and the world of the show within the opening. And to me, that's what a good theme song should always do is give you a real kind of feeling for what the show is about. And that's what the Office theme song does. It kind of, with all of the piano and all of the cues, you kind of, as it cuts throughout each character and what they're doing and interacting with each other, you really get a sense for the dynamics within the theme song. And I think that's what's good, because it's the best theme song to me, because it really introduces you to the show and to its characters within that brief 45 seconds, to where you can jump in and just be like, oh, I kind of can understand who's who and like what their interactions and what they kind of, who they are as a character within the theme song. And to me, that 70s show really doesn't, because they're all that just high energy. And so that's why I'm going with The Office as being the best theme song.
All right. Got The Office versus the 70s show. 5 minutes is on the clock, and the freeform debate will begin when someone starts talking.
All right, you already said that it was a theme song at the very last sentence of your argument just then. It's not a song, dude. It's a theme. It's a theme. And then you bring up the opening in your opening argument. And the opening has nothing to do with the actual question, actually, if you want to get technical. It's best theme, all right? And theme songs count. That 70s show is a better theme song because there's actual like substance to the lyrics. And if you're going to bring the opening into it, which is irrelevant, honestly, you don't get a theme. There's not like an actual like exclamation on certain characters when like certain keys happen. That doesn't happen in either of our things. So that point is defeated. But that 70s show, you get all the characters that you see in the main cast in the car, so you get to know everyone.
Because introduce you to the characters. We're only in the car, and then later on in the later seasons, it's because it's to introduce you to the characters. However, yes, but a song doesn't need to have lyrics. Some of the best songs in existence don't have lyrics. Yours has fun lyrics, yes, but it's kind of it's very repetitive. What The Office has is charm, and people will always kind of remember The Office. Like if I can hear The Office theme, I'm always like charmed by it. If I hear that 70s show as a theme song, I'm just like, okay, some people kind of really never let their taste grow outside of high school because they're still stuck in their whole like, oh yeah, it's cool to kind of like enjoy this burnout stoner song, but The Office always has this kind of charm to it and everything.
Sure, it has charm, but I think that's a mean-spirited way to look at that 70s show theme song, just by a theme song. And plus, you say you get to, learn about the characters. What if people are just randomly watching later seasons of the show where Steve Carell isn't in the opening and they have Ed Helms in the beginning? Like, you don't get a sense of the characters at all in terms of the opening. And it's not just about the stoned-out, druggy culture of the 70s. It's about hanging out with your friends, whether it's with drugs or not, and it's just a kick-ass theme. And yeah, it's just a kick-ass theme, and it might not be as sweet or as direct as The Office, but The Office is just, you can put that to any show like that with an office setting, and it'll just be equally as charming. I feel like you can put that for.
And the same thing can be said if you're about shows that are set like about groups of friends hanging out. You could do the same thing to your show and just cut out the Hello Wisconsin. If you're saying that our shows that my theme can just
be it wouldn't be the same with that Hello Wisconsin part. That's what makes that 70s show special, because you can't mimic that shit. You can't just take the rest of the song and do that. You can't Barry Gordy it or Rick Rubin it. You got to actually just listen to the song, and it's a great theme song. And The Office, I bet you some people, if you play it, it's just like, what is this, elevator music? I don't know what this is. But I guess to each their own. But I definitely think that 70s show has a definite stronger theme. It's more direct, whether you like that or not. But it tells you what the show is. It tells you, it shows you the people. If you want to bring the opening intro into it, it shows you all the characters at once with different seats and everything, and they're all given a joyful energy. I don't think that's a cynical show in any way. Definitely like what your mom was saying, whatever. So back to you.
Well, it's not cynical. it's not cynical, but I think when we're talking about the theme song, I think just being high energy doesn't make it the best theme song because it's like high energy rock song because that's what it is. But we're talking about best theme song, and I think that it's just a really high energy rock song that happens to be a theme song. However, mine is a theme song
goes with the show and fitting in general, so I don't think it's an irrelevant theme song at all. I think it absolutely goes with the tone of the show and what the show is all about in general, like the essence of the show. And The Office, it's just piano chords that are cool, and that's it. It's just catchy. I mean, there's no real like heart really put into it if you think about it, compared to that 70s show song, which feels actually genuine and heartfelt no matter if you like rock or not.
I don't think it feels genuine and heartfelt. It feels very much like a rock song of the 70s, which is cool. But I think when we're talking about theme song, we're not talking about best song. And I think mine does a better job of being a theme song where when you hear it, you automatically, you're just like, yeah, like this show's happening. However, people could just play that 70s song and people would just like head bop to it. But people aren't really going to get into the show.
No, because they listen to it when they watch the show, and then they're like, oh my God, the show's on. This is awesome. And I'm going to keep watching that because Ashton Kutcher's going to say, hey, Jackie. So it gets people going. Whether I don't know why you're counting that as a negative. Why it's not just an upbeat, a hard rock song. It's just a feel good song in general, and it gets the people going.
However, getting the people going, it doesn't really get me interested in the show. However,
what? That was definitely got a lot more heated than last time. So, but we've still got the closings to go. Because Dustin started off on the openings. Joe, you can go first on the closings. 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
So the question is, what is the best theme song? However, and to me, a theme song is kind of what encapsulates and what gets you into the heart and the feelings of the show. While that 70s shows, its theme song is very upbeat and high energy, I think you can just call that as any rock song of the 70s. My theme song, on the other hand, is the best theme song because it is very attuned to the show and very much a part of it and part of the lifeblood of the show. With that 70s show, its theme song kind of, can be ripped apart from it, thrown into other stuff of the 70s era, and would still have the same effect of it. While mine, I think trying to put it in other shows would take away the heart of the theme song, and that's what makes it the best, is because its heart is within its show and is so connected to it. Time. I'm gonna give the rest of it.
And Dustin, 1 minute is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
All right, you keep calling it a theme song. It's a theme. It's a great theme. But like I said, if we're talking about the best, it's the one that it glues you to the screen. And The Office, you could just like keep walking out of the room when it plays. That 70s show, you love seeing the energy and the commitment that the cast brings to the intro if you're going to bring the intro into it, like my competitor has. So it's a better song. It gives you everything you need. It's a 70s song to begin with. And yeah, they added "Hello, Wisconsin" at the end, but that's what brings charm to it. And it is a charming show in and of itself, and it definitely gets the tone of the show better than The Office's theme gets its tone of that show. I yield my time.
Whew. That definitely was a battle. Ryan, I'm going to go first to you on this one. Who are you going to give your point to? And
yeah, I mean, both competitors really brought their A game here, put their best foot forward, and I'm running out of sayings here. But the point is, Dustin went into more detail as to why his theme song is it's memorable, and he went into more deep dive into why it's so good, why certain elements of it work better than others. So in this case, I'm going to give it to the Duster himself. I'm going to give my point to Dustin on this one.
And Richard, who are you going to give your point to and why?
See, this was a really, really tough match, really tough fight. But I am giving my point also to Dustin because they both brought up the facts of the theme song, how it's meant for them. However, Joe really didn't defend the fact that Dustin said that like you could put any theme song to any business type show and it would be roughly the same. Whereas Joe didn't give any examples why his theme song, if you put on any type of show similar, why it would work as well. So I figured just Dustin had the better attack, and he defended his argument a lot better than Joe did. So my point's also going to Dustin.
And with that, Dustin does get the point, and we do get to go to question 4. And just as a reminder, you both still have your 1-minute extension if you want to use on your opening or closing. So just take that into consideration. If you want to use it, let me know before you start your opening. But question number 4 is, what is the best Netflix original show? And I'll put 90 seconds on the clock. And I'm going to go to Joe first on the opening. But yeah, do you want to use your extension on either opening or closing?
I'm going to use my extension on my closing this round.
On your closing?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So you've got 1 minute 30 for your opening. Time begins when you start talking.
So I am going with Daredevil, and the reason I'm going with Daredevil is because when Daredevil was first announced, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, you mean the character from that bad movie with Ben Affleck?" But what Marvel Television and Netflix were able to do with Daredevil was really elevate the character, bring him into a dark and gritty version of it, which was able to have just some of the best character moments with Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock and Daredevil, and season 2 with John Bernthal's The Punisher, seeing the dichotomy between the two and their own thing. And not just that, you get very interesting villains with season 1's Kingpin and later seasons, I'm blanking on their names, but in just what Netflix was able to do with a character that a lot of people had thrown to the wayside after the movie and after Elektra, and kind of elevate it and bring it into this and become a critically acclaimed piece of television that people are still talking about, and people were really upset when it was canceled, brings up the kind of that, and the fact that just these action sequences that it was able to do, the hallway sequence alone, just that one shot, which was also done in one take, and just this entire beautiful fight choreography and beautiful storytelling, then we get to really see Charlie Cox really get into this role and kind of become the Daredevil and become Matt Murdock. And then we also see Foggy Nelson and kind of just and the Punisher and Kingpin and just this entire group of characters, and throughout the 3 seasons that we did get with Punisher, kind of be the definitive versions of these characters where people want it.
And time. Right, we're going to go to Dustin for your opening. Dustin, do you want to use your extension on either opening or closing, or are you fine with the time you've got?
I'll use it just in case for my closing.
For your closing again? So yeah. So they're both using extension on their closings, but so Dustin, you've got 1 minute 30 on your clock for the opening. Time begins when you start talking.
All right, so my show is American Vandal. Yes, that raunchy-looking detective teen show on Netflix. I first saw the trailer and it was like, oh my God, who drew the dicks? Who drew the dicks? Oh my God. And I was thinking to myself, wait, what? What kind of a show is this? This doesn't look funny or ironic or anything. And then I watched the show, and it's one of the best comedies ever, let alone it being the best Netflix original. And as much as I love Daredevil, I feel like American Vandal is just a much better show in terms of characters. It feels like a better cop show than most cop shows. That's insane. Like pretty much all cop shows at this point, because of how generic they are. But the kids, they go into these, investigations of student crime, and they really go through every detail. They shoot it in a documentary style, if you're not aware. And then the first season, Jimmy Tatro played like their first suspect that they followed and interviewed and whatnot. And he was phenomenal and deserved a Critics' Choice Award nomination like he got. And the second season, it follows them at another school involving turd crimes. And it just takes all these dirty premises that sound gross at first, and they just turn them into something so transformative and unique. And the dark humor, if you're really a fan of dark humor, it's some of the best you'll see in a while. And the teenagers feel like teenagers, unlike a lot of other shows. And it's
time.
But
so we've got two completely different shows in Daredevil and American Vandal going up against each other. 5 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when someone starts talking.
All right, you said Daredevil was canceled, and honestly, bro, we all know Daredevil's not canceled. All right, we know Disney Plus is coming in, and
Actually, no, we know because Disney has already said that the Netflix shows are not going to be moving to Hulu, are not going to be Disney Plus. That what happened with the Netflix shows, what they did with them, that is going to be done. They might go back on it further, but I don't think they will. But that's the whole fact is when it was announced, there was a huge backlash to it. When American Vandal was announced that it was canceled after 2 seasons, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, it was a cute show, but it really didn't resonate with me because it was kind of the way I looked at it was just Netflix kind of, really having a cash grab and kind of going after the true crime genre that they had actually helped create with, making a murder and stuff like that. Kind of
satirizing. Even more ingenious that they would even consider it to be a show on the network and satirize it that well, and that's why it was a success. They canceled it for some reason, but CBS really wants to reboot it, or Hulu or whatnot, and they should totally pick it up. I don't know why Netflix canceled it, but at the same time, it's just I feel like Daredevil would have been a better movie after a while. I feel like the Daredevil seasons just dragged on, especially in season 2 when the Punisher, as great as John Barenthal was, and I love John Barenthal. Trust me how many times I've seen Wolf of Wall Street. But John Barenthal as the Punisher, I kept thinking throughout, I just want to see his own show. And then his show came out, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can watch that. But it just distracted me from Daredevil.
But you just bring up a good point that I was going to bring up. Daredevil was such an amazing show that Netflix saw the ability to branch off and create this entire universe around the Daredevil show. With that show being able to do that and being able to connect with these other shows, American Vandal, as much as it was with its anthology series, would never have been able to expand. And to me, that's what kind of makes Daredevil so great as a show. It makes it the best is because it was allowed to expand upon not just within its own show, but within other series and kind of create this encapsulating world.
Because everyone loved the Defenders with Iron Fist and Jessica Jones and Luke. Like that did so well, but Daredevil on its own, it was a really good show, but I personally got tired of it, and a lot of other people just got kind of sick of it, in my experience. And American Vandal, you're saying it couldn't have expanded? It totally could have expanded. These kids could have aged, They could have gone to college. They could have done this throughout their whole life. It could have been like a cool, cute, like you said. I don't really agree with that, but cute, college detective mystery show that still followed the format of the previous 2 seasons. And everything about it, just the authenticity is great. Daredevil is just a great action show. A lot of stale characters, especially season 2 when they brought Elektra in. It just brought in so many plot holes, bad CGI. American Vandal has nothing of that. It's about the story, it's about the characters, and it's about the humor, which is on point 24/7.
However, with that being said, yes, the CGI might be shoddy, but Daredevil is a great show for its storytelling. And when we get a character that a lot of people had kind of thrown to the wayside with Daredevil after seeing Ben Affleck's movie, and to see Charlie Cox bring into this role and kind of, take a huge bite out of it and be able not only to do the action of Daredevil, but to really get the sensibilities of Matt Murdock from his own personal past, his own personal traumas, his own relationships with Foggy Nelson, with the Punisher, with Elektra, and the Kingpin, and kind of, bringing it. To me, American Vandal doesn't really do that great of a job. It's kind of just a documentary. It's a mockumentary, which is fun and cute, but it's just that there's not much more depth than it is as a mockumentary following these filmmakers. And I think that there just isn't enough depth in that show for it to really be considered the best. With Daredevil, you get enough depth to where there is 3 seasons and it kind of expanded, and you really feel for these characters and you feel for what's going on with them, and you know that the stakes are going on, and you really feel for what is going on.
By the time Punisher is introduced, I'm already thinking to myself, wow, there's so much going on with Daredevil at the same time with like Deborah Ann Woll and Eldon Hansen and all those other characters that they keep introducing and shoving down your throat. And then when the Punisher comes in, it's like, okay, this is simple. It's just badass and he's kicking ass. I want to see his own show. That's not because Daredevil is that good, I want to see a continuation of it. No, it's because Daredevil got boring. I want to see another character that you've introduced. It's not because of that.
No, Daredevil never gets boring. I think you just you just are wanting more of the action stuff, which Daredevil gives you enough of the action stuff. It just also has a drama and a political drama background to it. Yours is just a simple mockumentary that is satirizing true crime, the true crime narrative.
It's anything but simple, because it actually, unlike any other comedy show of its kind, and there's none of its kind, first of all, it's the first of its kind, it actually goes in depth with the crimes. It, unlike shows like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they go more into the investigating in this show than Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're equally entertaining.
That definitely was a great fight, and it's not going to finish yet. We're going into the closings, and they both use the extension, so they get 2 minutes on the clock. And we started with Joe in the opening. So Dustin, you can go first in the closings. 2 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
Okay, like I said, American Vandal, it just, despite its being canceled, that doesn't take away from how great and smart and subversive and different it is. It's just a way better, more well-rounded show. It has better character focus. It never spends way too much time on the wrong characters, unlike Daredevil, which spends way too much time on the secretary and then Elektra. And then, no, this is Daredevil. I want to watch about Daredevil. And if Foggy Nelson's good, I like Daredevil too. I think Charlie Cox is as great as you're saying he is. He's terrific. But that's why I want to see him in the Marvel movies, which they never took advantage of. And they just wanted to get their TV money. American Vandal is a much more genuinely made show, put with a lot of heart, thought, and just effort, which a lot of Netflix shows and material really do lack. And I feel like American Vandal to be canceled is just ridiculous. And CBS or Hulu or anybody, get that back on the air. But it is a better Netflix show, and it's way more bingeable. It always just left off on the perfect cliffhanger each episode, and I couldn't wait. I binged both seasons in a day, like back to back to back. I went to the bathroom in my bed, I think. No, I'm just joking. But it's just a better show all around. Daredevil, I would be like 3 episodes today, maybe 2 next week. I don't know, and I forget about it. But American Vandal, just a way more better focused, more well-written show. It's just really subversive, and I'm done. Done with that.
Hi, and Joe, 2 minutes is on the clock. Time begins when you start talking.
You say your show is more genuinely made, but it's not. It was a simple cash grab on the true crime genre that Netflix had already been making with its Making a Murder. It was just kind of a satirical version of it. Mine was able to have this really, they had this vision for what they wanted to do with Daredevil. They knew what people had thought about Daredevil because of the movie, and instead they said, we're going to go darker. We're going to make it so Charlie Cox really feels this kind of, you see his transformation into Daredevil as he is fighting crime both on the streets and in the courtroom. And it's kind of this whole thing is the 3-season arc that you get with Matt Murdock is kind of, you see him really become his own, and you see the other characters, Foggy Nelson and the Punisher, you kind of see them in their whole arcs. You say that it gets bloated with these characters, but it doesn't. Each character has these focused episodes because they needed to tell the bigger story of Daredevil. Daredevil has to encompass Hell's Kitchen. He is the devil of Hell's Kitchen, and we have to know about the other people in Hell's Kitchen in order to get that. And that's what makes it the best show, is because you don't only just get this one narrative of Daredevil, you get to see the other characters, you get to see the world around him. And with your show, it just focuses, it is very focused, I will give it that, but its focus makes it so that it kind of, you can get bored with it very easy. With Daredevil, you always want to know what's going on with these other characters, what's going on with Kingpin, what's going on with the Punisher, what's going on with Elektra, what's going on with Foggy, what is going on in the world of Hell's Kitchen. It just envelops you in such a way that American Vandal really can't capture, and that is why Daredevil is the best show, because it just encompasses you in such a way and makes you feel in such a way that that very few shows in existence can. I will give the rest of my time.
Whew. Well, this is a really tough battle because both competitors gave it their all. And for me, I do think Daredevil is the better show. But My point is going to Dustin because he brought up a few good points about American Vandal. Because he brought up that like Daredevil kind of sort of was really wonky in that second season, and like a lot of good thing that came out of it was, from what I've heard, I haven't seen it yet, is that a lot of people more wanted the Punisher spin-off show from it, as opposed to talking about how great the season 2 was. And he also brought up that each season of American Vandal is, with being an anthology, it can go on for ages. So that, I think, Dustin gets my point. But I'm not the only judge here. Richard, I'm going to go to you. Who gets your point and why?
Oh, this is a super hard fight. Both competitors literally duked it out. It was very close. Both talked about how great their show was. Talked about in depth why their show could be considered the greatest. But my point is going to Dustin as well, because of the fact that the other seasons, Joe gave Attacks of American Vandal on the whole. He didn't give precise reasons why American Vandal isn't considered isn't the best TV show. So that is why my point's going to Dustin. It's just the very smallest details. It was super close.
And with that, we are getting the speed round, because Dustin got the point. Right, so we're going to the speed round. It's tied 2-2. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll give you a speed round question that you don't know, but and you're making up the arguments on the spot. You'll get 45 seconds for the opening, and for the opening, just talk about your own pick. Don't worry about the other pick just yet. Then you got 30 seconds for rebuttal, and then you got 20 seconds to close it off. So with that, and when I give the thing, just say the first, either D or J, like D for Dustin. So Dustin, you get D. Joe, you get J, and then I'll get you to say who you're picking as your answer once. And the first person to buzz in will be the one that goes first on this. But the speed round question is, who is the best late night TV host?
Okay.
You're muted as well, though, Dustin. So
I know.
Wait, he was muted. I think he didn't know he was muted.
Yeah.
Let's read the question again, and then we'll try it, and then we'll see who's faster this time.
Yeah, I'll ask it again. Who is the best late night TV host?
Hey.
Yeah.
Conan.
Right.
Jimmy Fallon.
Right. So Dustin is going Conan O'Brien, and Joe's going Jimmy Fallon. And I'll just put 45 seconds on the clock. Right, 45 seconds on the clock. Dustin, you buzzed in first, so you go first. And just remember, just talk about Conan for your opening. So 45 seconds starts when you begin talking.
Conan is the best late night television host because of his charisma. His interaction with guests is incomparable. I mean, he just has the best chemistry with everyone. It never feels fake or phony or anything. And all of his segments are great. His monologue is great. He would have been a great stand-up if he didn't do his as great as he was as a late night show host. And he's more than just that Jay Leno drama. He's actually has the funny to back it up. And his show has been going stronger and stronger as as we're speaking right now. And he's just so likable. He has that awesome Clueless Gamer segment that's hysterical. He has multiple segments with plenty of celebrities like Kevin Hart, Billy Eichner, whoever. He's just perfect. He's a great, charming late night host, and I hope he's on forever.
Time. And Joe, 45 seconds is on the clock. Talk about why Jimmy Fallon is the better late night host.
Jimmy Fallon is, to me, the greatest late night talk show host because of his interactions with not just his guests, but with his house band and with his announcer too. He always brings up this high energy, and you always feel like he wants to be there, and that he always is bringing his A game to every show that he does. He is his guest, and the games he has with them are amazing. His segments when he plays with the Roots is just incomparable, and the music and he does, and you can really see that he is invested in his guest, whether it's bringing on Lin-Manuel Miranda and Weird Al for that segment, or it's bringing on his former SNL cast members and castmates to interview them about their new projects, and you just see how he really is into what he's talking about with his guests and with his audience, and he interacts in such a way that
Time. Right, now we're going down to 30 seconds for the rebuttal. And Dustin, 30 seconds is on the clock. Rebut.
You say he's the most like best with guests, but there's always a phony atmosphere coming off of Jimmy Fallon. I love Jimmy Fallon. I grew up with him watching Saturday Night Live, but he doesn't have the longevity as Conan. Conan just knows how to do this at this point. He just has the best just ease to do it. He never has like an ooze of like fakery to him. Like he's never a fake. And Jimmy just does all this extracurricular stuff that you're talking about with celebrities just to boost his ratings, unlike Conan, who does it out of genuine love for comedy.
30 seconds is on the clock. Joe, it begins when you start talking.
You say he has this air of fakeness around him, but he doesn't. He actually, if you see him in his interactions outside and also on air, he's very truly into this. Conan, on the other hand, outside and on air, is very much an asshole and has this air of arrogance to him. He was fired from The Tonight Show because he was very unlikable as a host. It wasn't a lot of people think it's because Jay Leno wanted to come back. That's besides the point. He just wasn't that likable as a host on The Tonight Show. Jimmy Fallon came in and he brought this breath of air, and he's able to bring this energy, this high energy to it, and it's not fake. It's just who he is as a person and the character.
Time. All right, and 20 seconds is on the clock. Dustin, it begins when you start talking.
Jimmy Fallon has a fakery to him because of the fact that he doesn't have the longevity. And it's not that Conan is an unlikable person. If he was unlikable, he wouldn't be on the air, but he does. He's on the air still because people still love Conan, and they love all of his running jokes and his charisma and his energy. Jimmy Fallon, he relies on all these famous people.
Time. And Joe, it's all down to you. 20 seconds is on the clock. It begins when you start talking.
Jimmy Fallon doesn't rely on famous people. He relies on his own energy and his interactions with them. Just because he has famous guests doesn't mean. I think if Jimmy Fallon would be able to do the thing with any schmo off the street and people would still like it and he would still have the same energy and same enthusiasm. Conan just does it because Conan is just trying to boost his ratings because he is still salty about the fact that he was kicked off the Tonight Show, and that is why he's doing what he is doing. He doesn't have the longevity. Jimmy Fallon.
For a final round, they really brought the fire. And I'm going to start with Richard. Richard, who are you going to give your point to and why?
This was a great battle. Both competitors talked about how great their host is, how funny their host is. They attacked each other, one being an asshole, one being a phony. But ultimately, I am giving the point to Joe, because Joe brought up the fact that how, though Conan could be a likable dude, he was fired from the Tonight Show. Some people in the audience may not connect with him. The fact that he brought up the fact he's fired from the Tonight Show and that Jimmy Fallon is still doing what he does, my point is going to Joe.
And Ryan, who are you going to give your point to and why?
You know, this was really down to the razor's edge. It was down to the wire for me, but just ever so slightly, I'm going to give it to Dustin on this one. Just something that he said about certain points about countering what Joe was saying about his host and his pick and why. Just kind of slightly put it over the edge for me, so I'm going to give it to Dustin.
Which brings it all down to me. I don't know why I put myself in this position, but yeah, this was such a great battle. But yeah, I'm actually going to give my point to Joe on this one. It was very there was only a very small margin there. I think for me, like Joe's point about Conan being fired from Tonight Show and all that, I think that was kind of what edged it to him. But it was such a close battle, and which means, and your winner and moving on in the tournament is Joe Harrison. But let's hear from our competitors. Going to go to our unfortunate loser, Dustin. First, Dustin, how do you feel about how the match sort of went?
You're saying I didn't, respond to, his rebuttal about him being fired from Conan, from the Tonight Show, but like, I brought up like, yeah, but he was still managed to get another high-paying, successful talk show that's still on the air and it's still going strong. That was my point about that. But yeah, it was a fair match.
Yeah.
Definitely down to the wire, and Joe was a great competitor to do this against, and I definitely wish him luck in the next round for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's not that I didn't think that you didn't rebuttal, because I did pick that up as more. There was more of a thing that there's more on his side that I heard. But anyway, so unfortunately you are out of the tournament, but you're still in the league. Is there anyone that you kind of hope to see going forward, or are you just happy to get who you get next?
Yeah, happy to get who I get. It was fun.
Yeah. Now we move on to our victor. Joe, how do you feel about how the match went overall?
That was an amazing match. Dustin was a great opponent. He had me on my toes for every single round except for round one, but then after that, round 2, 3, 4, and the speed round, he really had me kind of reaching into my bag of tricks and kind of really needing to pull out and really get my grit on. And I can't wait to see what he does in this league, and I can't wait to face my next opponent, whoever that may be. And I'm just excited to see how far I can go in this tournament.
Well, I mean, Joe, I can tell you are going to be facing either JD West or Jay Burns. Is there anyone that you hope to get next?
I know Jay. I've judged with Jay. So that would be fun to kind of, instead of judging with each other, going against each other. I don't know much about JD. I've seen him around the league, so I think it's going to be I'm going to play it where the cards lie. I think both of them will give me a good shot, and but I think I have what it takes to win this tournament. So it's kind of going to see who I'm. It's going to be who am I going to beat next.
But yeah, we're definitely checking this league off right. We've had 2 great matches in a row. But I'll go talk to our judges now. Richard, so how do you feel about how the match went overall?
I mean, both competitors did an awesome job. I mean, with the exception of question 1, where Dustin kind of gave up, but he came swinging the rest of the questions, and it was literally. Like, it was probably one of the hardest matches I had to judge, and it literally came down to 1 or 2 things that each opponent said that swayed me to one choice for the pick. But it was a great match, and I look forward to seeing both of them compete again in this league.
And Ryan, sort of, how do you feel about how the match went?
Yeah, we started off a little bit of, rocky road in the beginning here with question number 1. But you know what? We after that, we just took off like a huge, giant spaceship going off into space. I mean, geez, these guys put everything and put their best answers to the test. They pushed themselves to their limits in some cases. They got really heated and passionate. It got really hot in this room. I thought we were going to have to get some air conditioners, and not just one air conditioner unit, but more like 5 to cool things down. Gee whiz. But I think this league is off to a tremendously awesome start, and I look forward to seeing what both these competitors do in their careers going forward. And I also look forward to seeing the next couple of matches within this new division, this new league of ours. But this was really good. Well done to both Joe and Dustin. Looking forward to seeing what they do down the line. Back to you in the studio.
But yeah, the league is going strong. And we've still got 2 more matches in the first round of the tournament. We've got our very own co-commissioner Alec Miller taking on Sandy the Sandman Robinson, and we've got JD West versus Jay Burns. Both matches are going to be great. I just know it, but without any further ado, this is the end of the match, and from Dustin, from Richard, from Joe, from me, and from Ryan. Until next time, don't change that channel.